Don't look now, but you've just clicked play on the latest episode of Nature's Natural Ear Candy, Spectales. My name is Jake, I like chocolate cake, and I'm sitting here with quite possibly the world's #1 bearded Morbius fan. Tell us all about your bloodlust, Jesus.
Well, I don't know, man. I think you're a little confused. I meant Morbius, the red pill, blue pill guy, but I mean, I will run with the Vampire Hunter, Morbius movie all day long because I'm also a big fan of that too.
It sounds to me like you're a red pill kind of guy.
Actually, I like to take both at the same time. I don't know. That's what has the best effect on me.
If this is your first time listening to Spectales, thank you and welcome to the show. Spectales is a comic book podcast that asks collectors and creators, what's your grail tale? Each week, we explore news stories about the comic book grails we love, the epic journeys behind how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity.
We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
This week, Jesus and I are joined by fellow comic podcaster and the man responsible for the latest Scarce Army Book Club reading selection for the month of May, Lance from the Comic Book Keepers podcast.
That's right. And if you're sitting there wondering, the Scarce Army Book Club, I want to know more about that, Jake and Jesus, then wonder no further.
The Scarce Army Book Club is an exclusive reading club for our Spectales Patreon subscribers. Every month, we read different books and discuss them in detail, what we loved, what we hated, and our favorite panels, and even more.
You can join the Scarce Army by using the link in the show notes or going to patreon.com, searching the Spectales, and subscribing to our show for $3.99 per month.
Now, enough of this gooey show of emotions. Let's get the episode started. So stock up on giant cans of tuna for the apocalypse and ask Elijah Wood if he ever plans to wear a wig. This is episode 42.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spectales, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
Heidi ho, and welcome back to the latest episode of What's That Squishy Feeling in My Shoe? Let's meet our first contestant, Jesus.
All right. That's a new one. Never heard of that one before, but there is actually something squishy in my shoe. I won't let you guys know what it is.
What is it? Of course, I'm seriously just joking. Welcome back for episode 42 of Spectales. This week, Jesus and I are thrilled to welcome our comic book podcast universe friend, Lance, from the aptly titled podcast, Comic Book Keepers. Lance, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I honestly love this show. As soon as I had it recommended to me, I started listening. I think I binged like 3 of your episodes on a flight the first day I started listening. So I'm very excited to be here.
Well, thank you. You didn't realize you were going to be on What's That Squishy Feeling in My Shoe?
Yeah. No, I didn't. And I also do not want to know what is in your shoes.
Look, I'm just telling you right now, you guys are going to wish on you, but now I'm not telling you guys. It's going to be a secret from now on. But thank you for binging those shows, and we're excited to have you on. And also, we're excited to have you part of the extended podcast universe that Jake mentioned, because there's a few of us now roaming around in this universe that we're just kind of like feeling around in the dark, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The podcasting comic book community is really supportive and has been great for collaborations and spreading the word about each other's shows. So it was fun to be able to learn about your show and kind of build like our friendship circle in that realm too. It's been a lot of fun.
And equally as much, I am a big fan of Comic Book Keepers. I think the best part about the comic book podcast universe that we're discussing is that everybody's show is so unique to them. Like, we're all talking about comic books and we're all talking about the way we comic book, so to speak. And none of us do it the same way. And I think that that's fun. It's interesting because I can comic book every day of the week now, right? There are enough comic book podcasts. There's more than enough, actually, to where every day of the week I can listen to a different show and learn something new. I was on your show 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago from when this episode drops anyway. And you and I just sat and talked about things that we had recently read. And I read some of the stuff you talked about, which I loved, which I wouldn't have actually probably heard about, or at least not right away, if I hadn't been on your show to talk about it or listened to your podcast.
Yeah, it's really cool because same thing for your show. There's things that I wouldn't have heard about before, but because we just have, we're different parts of the country. And so you might have a shop that might be promoting one publisher over another. And so it's interesting to hear your take on things and storylines and things maybe I wouldn't normally be pulling off the shelf that are of interest. And then specifically for Spec Tales, potentially like some value down the road.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I noticed about my shop after really talking to you is that my shop doesn't get a lot of Vault comics. And I asked my LCS owner about it, just curious. And he said Vault books just don't sell that well in his shop. So he only gets a couple of them just to make sure they sell out. And if somebody wants one, he'll order them, but he doesn't get much call for them.
Man, I want to ask if that's the chicken or the egg, man, because Vault Comics does have a bunch of really cool titles and really,
agreed,
different, takes on things. And is it just easier to sell the big three now, which is big three, I guess now, which is Image, DC, and Marvel, versus actually doing some legwork and saying, hey, these are some Vault comic. I mean, you got big names going to Vault Comics and pushing some big new creator-owned titles and stuff. So it's just interesting, man, how different parts of the country, the LCSs push different things and why they do. And I don't know, man, I feel like doing a consensus around the age of some of these LCS owners and seeing if that's possibly why they're not, moving towards some of these newer. You got Scout, you got Aftershock, you got Vault, and they all have some really good titles. I'm not saying all their titles are great. Not every title's for everybody, but they have some really, cool stuff that a lot of mainstream readers would enjoy. But it's just not available, as mass available as DC or Marvel is.
Yeah. And to that effect, I will say on the part of there's a lot of exciting things going on at those more independent publishers is from Vault, Barbaric, which is the book that Jake just brought up, easily was my favorite comic of last year. And it's not even close, honestly. I was immediately drawn into this world that and there's like action and fighting and magic and just straight up raw fighting and magic, like talking axes. Like it's so much fun. And there's only 3 issues so far. So if you are wanting to get into it, you easily can. The next volume is about to come out just in, I think, next month or in a couple months. So
I would, I appreciate you bringing that book up. I also don't appreciate you revealing a book that I wanted to talk about a little bit later in this show. And that I want to talk about that. Like you did it on purpose. You just kind of stole a little bit of my thunder.
Oh, there's one thing that Jake does not like is thunder being stolen. He does not like it.
I like to keep my thunder to myself. Thank you.
Okay.
Lance, before we get into our 3 segments, I'd really like to talk a little bit more about Comic Book Keepers, just to tell our listeners, the ones who are not familiar with your show, a little bit more about it. Would you mind giving us the quick pitch? I know you have a co-host as well who is not with us, and that would be Chris.
Yeah. So Comic Book Keepers is obviously comic book podcast where we like to break down one comic book character, team, or series at a time. And that's really how it started with me and my co-host, Chris. And again, we were another pandemic podcast that started out because we had way too much time on our hands. And we were like, well, we talk about comics all the time anyway. Let's just record it. And it then turned into, hey, these episodes take a really long time to prep if we're doing a deep dive into all these characters. And so we more recently started to record these What Are You Reading segments, which is what I had Jake on for that episode, which has been really fun. We have an episode coming out this upcoming week where Mac from We Get Dubbed and Piece by Piece podcast is going to be coming on. And that was really fun to do another What Are You Reading? Mm-hmm. And we've also been doing a Crisis on Infinite crossovers, a segment type style episodes where we take one, I'll say like publisher, like like publisher crossover, interpublisher crossover. That's the phrase I was looking for.
Okay.
And we covered, we just did the Power Ranger TMNT one not too long ago, but the first one we did, we had the Marvel or the JLA versus Avengers 4-issue crossover, because this entire kind of new format of the episode is always to honor the legacy of George Perez, because he is the king of crossovers. And so every single episode we do of Crisis on Infinite crossovers is to honor his legacy, and just he's an incredible human being and just going through a lot right now with his health, and just wanted to do something to show our love and appreciation for him while he's still with us.
I think that's really cool. And I actually very much enjoyed that episode, or episodes. You did 2, correct?
Yeah, we've done 2 of them so far.
Yes. And those are very enjoyable. The very first one, I think, was one of the episodes I know I've listened to. I think it was the first JLA episode that I listened to twice. And it wasn't like, oh man, I love this show so much, I'm going to listen to it again. I listened to it, and then like a week later, I was listening to it while driving to work. And it was just funny because I was like, I think I've heard this already. I'm pretty sure I've heard this already. And then I was like, let's just listen to the whole thing all over again.
There you go. Well, I appreciate the double download.
The double dipping. Yeah, man. I think one of your, I don't want to say recent episodes, but I guess recent, the Morbius, you did a Morbius episode, right? Deep dive. I really like that one too, because I consider myself a pretty knowledgeable, comic book person. Like I'm not the guy on the Simpsons knowledgeable, the LCS owner there, but I know a lot, especially about the stuff that I like, and I like Morbius a lot. But some of the stuff that you discuss on Morbius was new to me, and just pretty cool to know about the character. And it was just, it's obviously relevant with the movie and stuff, even though the movie's at like, I think I looked last, it was like 17% Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Which I don't think did the character justice, again, because I like him as a character, and I have some of that ownership, I guess, that I feel for the character because I grew up with him. But yeah, the deep dives that you do, and you mentioned how long they take. So about how long does it take to do a deep dive for one character?
I tend to take about, I'll space out how much time I'm spending a day, but I usually like to take about a week and a half to prep all that info.
Wow, that's a lot.
And so it took you a week and a half to research Bat Radar. Is that?
Yeah, just Bat Radar alone. Oh my gosh, it pains me every time I hear that phrase.
Now I haven't seen the film, but I'm told they fixed that in the film, right? They don't actually say Bat Radar.
They'd still mention it, but then they correct it by saying what it actually is afterwards.
Great, because they really needed to lay that out there for potential moviegoers. Some form of Bat Radar.
God. I feel like less people, like if you said just echolocation, it's like, oh, like bats. Whereas when you say Bat Radar, I'm like, wait, what's Bat Radar?
Are they licensing Batman's utility belt on this?
Oh man, echolocation, so easy. It's right there, low hanging fruit.
Yeah, we all heard it in like first grade, like zoo books. Like, come on.
That's right, zoo books. All that said, if you're out there listening to this, when you finish, go listen to Comic Book Keepers. Give it a shot. Jesus, I clarified. When you finish this episode, go listen to Comic Book Keepers. If you happen to pause this episode and then stumble over to Comic Book Keepers, we're not going to be upset with you. We just want you to make sure you come back. So share the love. Comic Book Keepers, Spec Tales.
Sure.
There's plenty of time to go around. You're driving to work anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, I
You
appreciate
ain't got nothing better to do than to listen to a couple of guys talk about comic books.
Yeah, exactly. A few guys, right? And if you are a first-time listener, we're going to go through 3 segments today. We always do the same 3 segments in every episode. We start everything off with recent pickups, which we talk about something we recently purchased or recently read. Then we go into the Grail Tale segment. That's going to be where Lance tells us all about his comic book Grail Tale, and I don't know how he got it, why it's important, something along those lines. And we'll finish off with speculation. This is Jesus's absolute favorite segment because he likes to know how to make the hobby pay for itself. Right, Jesus?
That's correct, man. I don't like spending money. If I didn't have to spend money and just was able to get free books, that'd be my jam right there. But the second best is, having the hobby pay for itself, selling some books, getting some books into other people's hands. So favorite. Can we start with speculation this time? Do it back? No. Okay.
You know what? Let's do that. Let's start with here it is.
Recent pickups.
Oh, I must have pressed the wrong button. We're going to start with the recent pickup segment instead.
I see what you did there, Jake. It's subtle.
I love those transitions so much.
Thank you. I rather enjoy them. I never get tired of pressing that button. That's for sure. Especially the first one. The recent pickup segment. So this is one where Jesus always kicks us off. So Jesus, the mic is all yours.
All right. So my speculation pick is going to be.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm just joking. Recent pickups, man. For the recent pickups, I have some that I recently read. I mentioned these to you off air, but I will go ahead and say it now. Again, this Donny Cates, one of my favorite writers right now. Donny Cates run. This is Hulk 3 through 5. I hadn't been able to go pick up my pull list, so I picked up these last 3. Was able to catch up. I think 6 is out now, if I'm not mistaken. So I need to go pick that up, but it's going to probably be another 3 or 4 weeks before I get a chance to do that. Maybe longer. I don't know. But I'm just enjoying it, man. Like I mentioned, these characters, Hulk is 60 years old, somewhere along the line. So there is not a lot that hasn't been done with him, and I think there's some blowback in this recent number 6 that just came out that you're seeing the most incredible, the strongest ever Hulk ever imagined on, that's canon and all this jazz, which is fine. But it's like 60 years of Hulk. I'm sure they've done everything, right? They've touched everything. But Donny Cates manages to do something a little bit different, a lot of action, something different for Hulk fans, which again, I'm not even really a big fan of the Hulk. I just like Donny Cates' writing. So I gave it a shot and it's not bad. I mean, it's not, one of my greatest reads or like Something's Killing the Children or anything of that nature that I really enjoy. But it definitely passes the time. And if you're a comic book reader and collector and things of that nature, I think this Hulk run is not bad at all. And I think you could do worse than Hulk, the Donny Cates run.
You've heard it here first. The Donny Cates run on Hulk is okay, says Jesus.
And you could do worse.
You could do worse. And then it's like, I'm just telling you, man, I'm just not a big fan of the Hulk. And it's so weird, man. It's just so weird. He's been around for so long. You can't really do too much with him. He gets mad and smashes stuff.
It's a challenging character. The fact that Cates took him on, I think is brave, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Hulk is one of the characters that really got me into more of like the collecting side and understanding how amazing comics could be. Because one of the first trades I read when I was getting back into the hobby was Planet Hulk. And that storyline blew me away. So there's just really interesting things you can do with Hulk. And I think that Donny Cates is doing a really good job right now of changing things up. There's a lot of introspective things going on right now in his run. And the fact that you have Ryan Ottley illustrating that run, like Cates and Ottley as a duo is really hard to top, in my opinion. It's a great pairing. And knowing both of them, the best is easily yet to come.
Yeah, they love to like sprinkle stuff in the beginning and let it pay off towards the end. That's why I like it's like a slow burn almost. But man, it is tough, man. And so, you know, Mark Waid said something on our podcast when we had him on. I don't remember what episode it was, but you know, he likes to do stuff that hasn't been done before with certain characters, or if they haven't like, you know, shared pages with a certain other character. Like I think he mentioned Robin and somebody else hadn't been in the same storyline, so he put them in World's Finest, right? Stuff like that. But my question is like, and I don't know, it's just me how I think sometimes. Like you mentioned Planet Hulk, right? Planet Hulk is a great storyline. You know, another Hulk storyline that's great is the Al Ewing run, which is the Immortal Hulk, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then like those are kind of like the definitive Hulk runs, like modern, I guess, or recent, right? For recent readers. Like if you're a writer like a Donny Cates, are you thinking you're going to do better than those, or like, do you want to do better than those, or you just want to do different? Because there's some that are different, like Frank Miller's run on The Dark Knight, right? On Batman, right? That's kind of definitive. That's kind of like up there. The Killing Joke also story. Like those are the ones that are kind of up there. What else can you do with Batman that hasn't been done? You know, I don't know. It's just a question that I have, and it I don't know. I guess I'm getting kind of jaded with these same characters or that we've seen for forever.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know.
Not everybody at the same time, please.
Go ahead, Lance.
Well, I was just going to say, so what you're saying is you want to read more independent titles.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you know, Jake knows this too. I mean, independent titles right now are something that I have front of mind. I try to get as much as I can, just because it's different. I mean, Righteous Thirst for Vengeance, Ice Cream Man. What was the other one? The West of Sundown, right? Like yep. they're just different new stories that haven't been done or has that novelty to it that you don't see in the big three for the most part.
Yeah, of course. And that's kind of the exciting thing about just being in this hobby, because I feel like with all of the years that comics have been being released, there's always that other great story that you haven't read yet.
Oh, there's a lot.
That is the fun part. You are never going to read every great comic book story. It is impossible. There's just too much, unless this is all you do every single part of your day.
There's that guy out there. I don't know his name, but he's out there.
Well, he's the guy that then switched over and watched, what was it? He watched Spider-Man Homecoming 300 times or something.
Oh, I remember seeing that story, and I think everybody collectively was like, woohoo, like good for you, buddy.
Okay, how many times are you watching? How many times are you watching before you guys tap out of that movie? Twice? 5?
I saw it twice in theaters.
I saw it twice. Yeah. Same thing. I saw it twice in theaters.
Yeah, I think I saw it twice in theaters. But I'm saying, like, after 5, are you like, all right, I'm not coming back for 6? After 10?
I mean, I think this guy was going for a record. I think he was. Yeah. That was the point.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, you guys, like, I don't know. It's free. You can go every day. How many times are you going before you say, I'm not going to go tomorrow?
Twice.
I'll say this. I saw Avengers Endgame 3 times within 24 hours.
Oh, damn. I mean, that's 24 hours in just those 3 viewings right there. I mean, that's how long that movie was.
Yeah, so I saw it the evening it came out, and then I saw it the morning of Friday, and then I went again Friday evening.
You made sure you remembered to eat and drink, right? In between?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Plenty.
All right. Well, yeah.
And that's a lot. Like, I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I can do that.
I definitely think I could. The thing is like, I don't know. Maybe if I set my mind to it and I'm like, nope, I'm going to see this one 5 times. I'm an adult. I can choose how many times I see a movie. And with Spider-Man, I was like, twice was good. Moving on. Next movie. So that's how
I like how you clarified. I'm an adult.
Uh-huh. I was planning on seeing No Way Home more times, but every single time I was about to go again, there was like another health scare, or COVID outbreak scare, or close contact, or somebody got sick with that wasn't COVID the week after. So things just kept coming up. I would have seen it more, but 2 was all I saw.
So what is it? You just want to go experience again? You want to go look for the Easter eggs? Because like me, I'm an Easter egg person. I want to go see the Easter eggs, right? Like that I missed. But what would be the motivation to continue?
For me, it's when I see films, I feel like every time I go in, I have these expectations of what the movie's going to be. And I experience it and I feel like I didn't get everything that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
There's been multiple films where I went and I didn't enjoy it very much the first time. And I went back and the second time I was like, how did I miss this the first time? This is incredible. So I like to go back to really appreciate the details of the films that I didn't catch previously.
Man, this is actually a more in-depth and interesting question. It's simply because Jake, we've had this conversation about the medium of comic books, right?
Yeah.
It's not like movies, obviously, and it's not like a book, because a book is like this long thing that, you might not retain as much, but the comic book is more immediate. It's also visual, and you see it as you want to see it at your pace, right? Like you can skip forward in it, you can go backward, you can open the page and see the whole, the whole layout right away, and just consume it at your pace and consume it differently. So I would wonder how many of us comic book readers are multiple movie viewers for kind of the same reason. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw Morbius for the 19th time, that was for pure pleasure and enjoyment.
Oh man, I think that's what is that word? That's you just like glutton for punishment. Yeah, glutton for punishment. That's what it is.
All right. Well, I don't need to explain myself to you. I'll see Morbius for a 20th time, and I'm not going to apologize. I don't even think that movie's in theaters anymore. To yourself. Just apologize in the mirror every night. Lance, what do you have for recent pickups?
So I have a couple things that are on their way to me right now. I'll start off with one that was pointed out on your show in one of the first episodes I listened to, which was Ghost Rider issue 31. So first full appearance of Midnight Suns.
Nice. That sounds like a Jesus recommendation.
Yeah.
Why does that be my recommendation, man? Well,
you're a Ghost Rider guy. Yeah, I
am a Ghost Rider guy.
All right. Well, it's not an insult. I just said it sounded like something you would have recommended.
Yeah, man. I really like Ghost Rider. He's such a fun character to follow, and I love horror. So when this popped up on your episode, I thought to myself, how in the world do I not already own this book? Because I love Midnight Suns. I love that team up. So I went out and just recently this week, I went to my LCS and pulled out through their Ghost Rider section, and I found 31. But of course, they're also speccing on it. And so they skyrocketed the price to like $50. And that's double what it's going for near mint copies on eBay. So that day I went home and I was like, no, I'm not waiting any longer. And I just bought a near mint polybagged Ghost Rider 31. It's on its way to me right now, and I can't wait. I will also point out that they had Ghost Rider 28. So first like cameo of Midnight Suns and first Lilith. They had that priced at 90.
Wow.
Yeah.
First
90. Are they saying, are they thinking the cameo is the first official appearance?
No, they just saw Midnight Suns like one part of 1 of 6, and because it's not, I feel like 28 is not going for more than issue 31 right now.
Yeah, it's a cameo, and it's also first appearance of the Caretaker, first and appearance Lilith. Of Lilith, Mother of Demons, which is not to be confused with the other Lilith, which is the daughter of Dracula. And then first appearance of Meat Market, the offspring of Lilith.
It's a horrible name.
But that one's also a cool cover with Ghost Rider. I mean, a lot of Ghost Rider covers are cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the one that people are going for, man. But that's, I mean, nobody goes for 180, right? They always go for 181, not the cameo. They go for The full first?
Yeah. So that's one of them. And the other one I have on my way is I just purchased the omnibus for Jason Aaron's Thor and Mighty Thor run.
Oh, nice.
Which is the God of Thunder run? Is it the God of Thunder?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really
so it is 1,200 pages of awesomeness.
Oh, man.
How long does it take you to read those?
A long time. I'm a very slow reader.
Yeah. Well, now do you get the omnibuses
because I read books even slower?
Do you get the omnibuses for referencing purposes, or do you read this like all the way through?
This is actually my first Omni.
Oh, nice. All right. So you don't know what you're going to do with it yet. You don't know. Maybe it's a reference book. Maybe it's a read straight through book. You don't know.
Yeah. Jake is always putting it back towards money. He's talking about, if it's a reference material, then you can do on your taxes as a write-off because of the podcast. See, Jake, always coming back to the money. Always to the money. Can't just enjoy the omnibus. Can't just enjoy it.
I literally didn't bring up money once in that. That was completely.
Oh, we know. We know what you were thinking, Jake. We know.
Oh, man. All right. Well, congratulations on your first omnibus. I'm really happy that you could announce that on our show. Breaking news. Lance from Comic Book Keepers just got his first omnibus.
Nice.
Well done.
Yeah.
Was that all? I don't want to cut you off, Lance. Was that all you got for the recent pickups?
I have another recent pickup, but it's going to be a part of my Grail Tale.
Oh, well, we're not going to spoil that. Well, then my recent pickup, Lance, this is one that you had touched on earlier. This is a book that I learned about because of your show, being on your show, for the recent reviews, recent read, version that we did for your show. This is Barbaric. You touched on it earlier. Yes. Came out June 2021. It's a Vault comic by Michael Moreci and Nathan Gooden. Or is it Morecki? I'm assuming Moreci or Morrissey. I don't know. I apologize, Michael, for butchering your name. I've never been one to do names very well. In this case, though, Barbaric, I read volume 1 and it's incredible. So basically, you've got a Conan the Barbarian looking guy who is under a curse by these witches who, well, talk about witches. I mean, witches, right? And they curse him to where he essentially he can live forever, can't die. He is immortal, but he has a bloodthirsty axe if somebody asks him for help, he has to help them. So he's like a yes man. And 2, he has an axe that he can talk to, but nobody else hears the axe talk. So he's like a crazy person, and he's wandering the world waiting to help people. And then the axe gets drunk on blood, and the axe is hilarious. Honestly, if they were to ever make this into a show, I mean, the axe is the best character by far.
100%.
But this is not your normal Conan the Barbarian where, Conan didn't talk very much, right? He, what was it? What is best in life? And he had like 5 words to say about that. But in this case, this guy, I actually really enjoyed how he kind of went against the grain when it comes to the average barbarian story, where he talks a lot, and he's quite funny, and in ways you don't really expect. And maybe that's just because you're expecting him to be just like Conan, and he is not like Conan in the words he says, what he talks about. And he is basically plagued with having to do the right thing all the time, which he hates because he's a horrible human or a horrible person that basically just gets tasked with only doing the right thing all the time. So great storyline. The bloodthirsty axe is my favorite part. Literally gets drunk on blood. Like there are times you're reading it and he literally hiccups. It's good. So this came out last year, but the one I'm going to also recommend you look for, Lance, I don't know if you have one handy because I'd love to see your copy of it.
I do.
The 1 in 200, is it 200?
1 in 100. One, or not in, it's of. So there are only 100 issues of this ever made.
Oh my God. Okay, so they took the Conan the Barbarian movie poster and they made a first issue of it. Gosh, that is gorgeous. And it's got the bloodthirsty axe on it and everything. It's Barbaric #1. There are only 100 of these actually made in the world. And it is holy
one's
shit.
at Lance's house.
Yeah, there is one at Lance's house. And for the right price, he will sell it to you. You can reach out to him at comicbookkeepers@gmail.com. No, but seriously, loved it. Thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah, of course. My favorite thing about doing the podcast is when somebody actually reads something that we talk about. It is literally my favorite thing. So I'm so happy that you enjoyed it. Just one detail from the comic itself that I loved was that it's, like you said, it's done like the Conan the Barbarian poster. And so it even has the fold lines. Like if somebody had folded this poster and how you would have purchased it in a store, it has that on the book.
Oh, nice.
And then the axe itself, the sword that the woman on the cover is holding, and then the Barbaric name at the bottom is all done with this gold foil cover part of it too. So literally everything about this book makes me happy. And so I think it was maybe a couple weeks after issue 1 of Barbaric came out, they threw up on Vault's website. They said, hey, we're dropping this book. Only 100 issues we're going to make. We're never going to do an homage cover to it again. So get them while they last. And I really tried to get my buddy to also buy a copy, and he did not. And as soon as it came out, it was reselling for like triple the price on eBay.
Wow.
Yeah. This book is still at my local comic shop. This book sold out immediately. It is for those that know about it, they snag it up when they can.
That's what I'm saying. How did they know about it? How did people know about, like, the other one too, we talked about a little bit in one of the earlier episodes, was that Daniel Warren Johnson and was it Murder Falcon? I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And then the recent one that's come out that has a lot of buzz is called Dual Power Bomb. That hasn't came out yet. It's by the same guy. So I know that because I know about the Murder Falcon thing, but how can people find out more about independent titles like Barbaric?
I think you just read the previews. Honestly, I think that might be the only real.
Is that how you knew about it, Lance?
I knew about it just because. How did I find out about it? I think I just went into the shop and saw the cover, because at the time the issue 1s were out, and I think I had seen on Twitter the artist had posted the book, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's like Conan, but like a magical axe. Like, I'm down to read that. I went in, they still had some issue 1, so I snagged one. And then word of mouth spread about the book, especially in my area. And after that, if you didn't have it on your pull list, it wasn't on the shelf.
So you basically have to live in like a magical realm to have heard about this book. I see. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Jesus lives in Houston, and we all know there's very little magic.
We only got one street light here in Houston, guys. So we gotta.
All right, that I think is going to wrap up the recent pickup segment. But the good news is we've got another segment coming right around the corner.
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
The Grail Tale segment. Lance, you know about this segment. We know about this segment. And our favorite part about it is that we get to just sit back and let you do your thing. That's your cue.
You guys started cutting out. Am I back?
Yeah.
Okay. You sounded like a robot for a second. I heard the music, and then we transitioned, and the next thing I hear is, "That's your cue."
That's perfect.
Right, so apparently we're back now.
I don't think I'm cutting that.
No editing. You're leaving this in, Jake. Leave it all in.
Yes, we are back, and you are up.
Okay. So I want you to come with me on a journey that we're going to be talking about right now. And we're going to go back to that great old time of as soon as the pandemic started, when we were all super happy and all sunshine and rainbows. I had just graduated from occupational therapy school, and I had just taken my board exam, and I passed. So I was officially an occupational therapist, was very excited to start my career. And the pandemic hit, and jobs all disappeared. Clinics that I would have wanted to work in and wanted to work in shut down. And I did not have a lot of, let's say, expendable income to pay for my hobby. So I didn't have a lot of other bills. We were staying with family at the time, so I didn't have to pay rent. But I was like, I still want to at least have some fun right now during the pandemic, and trying to keep sane during the madness that was. So me and a buddy decided that we would start to buy and resell comic collections. We had seen people do it online, and we're like, hey, this might be a fun thing for us to do to kill some time and, build up our collections. So we started small and bought like a rather like smaller collections, nothing crazy. We each decided to put like $200 into it at the beginning, and made, of course, the horrible decision of buying a couple boxes of indies that sold for like pennies. But eventually we learned what to kind of look out for. And eventually we were able to build up, and we turned like our $200 each into maybe like $600 each into the hobby.
Okay.
And then I was looking on OfferUp one day, and do you guys know what OfferUp is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Some of the people I've recorded with, like further on the East Coast, haven't heard of it, and they have like a different app altogether. So on OfferUp, I saw this listing, and it was for like a collection of graded books. And they threw it up there, and it was like $1,200. And I was like, okay. And they had like some decent ones in the picture, like a Wolverine 1 that was graded pretty high. A bunch of like modern things, a lot of like Jonathan Hickman, Secret Wars variants, con variants, all that kind of stuff. So me and my buddy were like, hey, let's go meet up and see like what all this is in the collection. And we get there, and the guy pulls out these boxes, and it is 57 graded comics.
Okay.
And yeah, we were not expecting that many. And it turns out that this person worked demolition, had gone to this building that they were going to demolish, went inside, and there was legitimately just these boxes sitting on one of the floors.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. And so they brought them home, sold them initially to a cousin. The cousin then a few months later needed money, so sold them back sold them back to this original person. So this collection was changing hands a little bit. So it comes back to this person. He's like, I'm done with having these books. I'm just going to sell them off. So we go and we see the collection, and there's some cool stuff mixed in. It's not just graded books. There's some things too. But we ended up buying the collection, and we ended up paying probably only $23 per graded book.
Oh, man, that's less than the cost of Slabbo, man.
Yeah. We got very lucky. The person was just kind of over it and didn't want to piece it out. And so he just sold everything at once. So we take that collection home and we piece out, and there's some fun things that we find in it. One thing in particular, it was interesting because it was like a mix of CGC, CBCS, and Vault, which I had never even heard of.
Okay.
Have either of you heard of Vault?
Like the publisher?
So there is here. I'll pull one of the books out here so you can see. So Vault was a grading company. They're still grading things, but they're more grading like cards now. They aren't grading comic books anymore.
Interesting. I've not seen that label before.
I remember them.
Yeah, and honestly, I really like their slabs. They're really sleek, and they have like why they're a key issue, and they have all the info, and it's really cool. I really enjoyed these books, so I kept a few of those from my collection.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah. So we have this collection, and now we're like, okay, so we picked out the things that we wanted, and in turn, we're like, this is kind of the point where we're going to flip, make a decent amount of money, and then be able to like go on and buy the books that we really want. So fast forward, and I'll save a few of the books that I picked up along the way, because there's one book in particular that I want to bring up that I got because of this. And so we saw off that collection. My buddy decides that he's a little bit too busy. We're starting work again. I'm also working now. I'm finally working in a hand clinic like I wanted to since I graduated. And I see this new posting on OfferUp for the Masked Rider Power Rangers crossover. And it is a book that I had wanted for a very long time. I love Power Rangers. I love Masked Rider. And I love weird 90s crossovers and those types of comics. There's something about them that I just love. The art is pretty honestly, it's pretty horrible on the cover, but I love how horrible it is. And so when I clicked on that listing, another book popped up that they were also selling, which was the third printing of Batman Beyond #1, which is the one that doesn't have the UPC code on it, which is actually another book that I had wanted for a very long time. So I go and meet this person, found out, I was like, do you have any other books? And they ended up pulling out like 3 long boxes worth of books.
Oh, wow.
And rather than taking the time to look through everything, I was like, how much do you want for just all of this? And ended up coming to a deal on a price that was like a really good one for both of us. And from what I saw. And so I took it home, went through the pieces. I had my Batman Beyond one. I had my Masked Rider Power Rangers crossover. And in there I found Peacemaker #1.
Nice.
And this was the Charlton Comics version. So the one that came out in the 60s.
Oh, the original one.
The original one. And this was at the time where the show had just released, and like the heat for it was at an all-time high. And there was one book in particular that I had been wanting for a very, very long time that I decided that the Peacemaker #1 would help me get. And I ended up selling that Peacemaker 1 for like $400 or so.
Nice.
And that got me the remainder of the money I needed to pick up my X-Men #12 First Juggernaut and Origin of Professor X.
Nice.
Man. Look at the red on that.
This copy of the issue, yeah, there's some like creasing on the cover, but staples are strong. The pages on inside look great. The colors on the cover look fantastic. The X-Men still looks very white on the cover.
Yeah.
And it is complete. And I am so happy to finally have this in my collection. I love Juggernaut.
Yeah, Juggernaut is actually one of the rare villains that the book just always goes up. Honestly, I mean, I suppose there are some waves, but with other villains, you'll see their books like take big waves up and down. Juggernaut is just consistently a very highly collected character. And I never really understood why. I mean, I like the character myself as well. Something about that character, kind of like Dr. Doom, right? Transcends the speculation market. It's just a book collectors want. And that Juggernaut, that is a fantastic looking copy as well.
I mean, he's just a cool character, man. He's a cool character. He's not a mutant. He's I guess what is he's related to Professor X somehow, right? If I remember correctly,
he's a half brother.
Half brother. Then he becomes I don't know. He's kind of like an anti-hero sometimes, isn't he? Like he's kind of a good guy every once in a while when they need him to beat somebody up or something because of the power of Cyttorak. He's just a really cool character. That's my brother's favorite character too, and he has that book as well. I don't have that book personally. I want that book, but that's a really cool book. Like you mentioned, that red pops on that book, and it is true. Juggernaut's always coveted. I don't know. It's a good question as to why he doesn't ebb and flow. Everybody just wants Juggernaut. Yep. He's already come out in an X-Men film too. So,
yep, two of them because he was in Deadpool 2. I liked him much better in Deadpool 2.
Absolutely, he
was much more juggernauty.
Juggernauty and so naughty. But this book also, I just like it just because it also is the origin of Professor X, and for me, I'm never going to be able to afford an X-Men #1. So first Professor X is very much out of my grasp, but if I'm going to get another key related to Professor X, this is the one.
Yeah. Well, you might be able to sell your entire collection to get a copy of it. Maybe.
Hard pass.
Or you can always like trade up and continue to trade up. I mean, that's something that Jake's done that here on the show, right, Jake?
I've definitely traded. It takes a lot though, right? Like you end up giving away books you did not want to trade, but it is certainly a way to maximize the books you have in your collection and to get the books you may ultimately want more. That's how I got my Hulk 181.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. I still relive that story in my memory. I think that was episode 3 or 5. Not sure.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that one.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
He did it in a week, by the way.
Yeah, traded for Hulk 181 in 1 week. Traded 6 books.
Wow.
Yeah, it was one of those things. For some reason, I just got on it. I wanted to do it, and I didn't work at all that week. I mean, I got paid to work. I don't. Oh, I hope nobody I work with is listening. But
it's episode 5.
Episode 5. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. So you ultimately did exactly what we've talked about on this show multiple times. You used the hobby to pay for itself, and you got yourself your Grail, which I think is fantastic. And it's a great Grail book. Pretty incredible. So I don't mean to like bring it down at all, but like, what's the next goal then? Are you continuing to buy more collections? Do you have another goal book in mind or a Grail book that you're now chasing next?
Yeah, I actually do. And for me, the way I buy is I just want to go after the things that I really like and want, not necessarily the things that are the most valuable. And for me, my next book that I have on my list that I want to pick up is First Deathstroke. So New Teen Titans #2.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
One of your recent episodes, there was a guest on that talked about how undervalued DC books are.
That would have been Aaron, AA Comics. Yep.
Yeah. And I could not agree more. Especially like you can get a really nice copy of New Teen Titans 2 for like $150.
Yeah.
Like 200, like a really nice copy. There's so many keys that go like undervalued. Like you can get first Kyle Rayner Green Lantern for like $10.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And one that blew me away was how cheap First Black Manta is going for.
Yes.
And that is a major character. And I think it's a 12-cent cover too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Silver Age. It's Silver Age. And then we said too the second appearance of him is also criminally undervalued because it has a really cool cover.
Oh, the cover for the second appearance of Black Manta, I think is better than the first.
Yeah, it's
honestly.
really dope, man. It's really dope.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, DC's undervalued. We've talked about it. I mean, and the other thing you say it's undervalued, but it's undervalued until they come out on a show or they announce something or what have you. And think about your Grail Tale 2 that I have. I guess like a follow up question about too is, you gave up Peacemaker, right? Which that's a pretty big book. They've announced Peacemaker, season 2. I think they're gonna make a season 2 about it. And you gave you gave the opportunity for somebody else to get their Grail if Peacemaker was their Grail, so that you can get your Grail. So I think that's also the comic community kind of working its way out in these Grails ending up in people's collections that really covet them. But at any point, did you watch the Peacemaker? I guess that's the first question.
Yeah, I loved it.
But it didn't do anything for wanting to have that first appearance of him.
So I contemplated keeping it, but X-Men 12 will always be more important to me than a Peacemaker 1.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you gotta make that call.
Yep.
All right. It is time to move into our final segment.
Speculation.
The speculation segment. This is where we talk about books that we feel are undervalued or could have some value in the future. Jesus, what do you got? You want to kick this one off?
Yeah, I'll kick it off, man. So this, I rarely do this where I talk about, hot books at the moment that they're hot. But even though this book is hot and it's really skyrocketed, I am going to go on the limb and say that this book still has a lot more to go. And when this project does eventually, come to fruition, it will be worth even more. So the book that I'm talking about right now, and I'm gonna do 2 books because the second appearance is awesome as well. But it's Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 6 and number 7. Number 6 is the first appearance of a Muerto, a luchador, and a cameo of his enemy El Dorado, which is his enemy. Why is this important? Well, they just announced last month, in April, that Grammy winner Bad Bunny is going to star in a standalone Sony film based on this character, this obscure Mexican wrestler. Now, while it's obscure, it's very obscure. This guy Bad Bunny is like the definition of a megastar, right? Everything he touches turns to gold. Everything Sony touches turns to Morbius. I understand that. I know that. However, this guy, I mean, he when he wrestled in WrestleMania, it broke records. Like, so his people, his fans travel is what I'm trying to say. So when this movie comes out, when the trailer comes out, this book is going to be even hotter. Some of his fans are going to want to buy it. What is this based off of? It's going to be these books. So right now, they're going for about 80 bucks raw in high quality and near mint condition. So you can get it for right now around that price. I know it's hot. I know you're going to be thinking, I'm buying at the peak. But remember, the peak is when the trailer comes out, when you start seeing set photos, when Bad Bunny starts talking about it on his Instagram, on his Twitter, whatever, this book is going to go up even higher. So I think that's my speculation. Number 7 is also, it's a $15 book right now, but it's a really cool cover. It has the luchador mask on it with fire in the background. And it's the first full appearance of his enemy, El Dorado. So Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 6 and number 7. And what I can tell you as well is these books are in the back bins. If you go in the back bin on some LCSs that are not up to date on this kind of stuff, you will find some of these books there.
Nice.
That's what I got.
Great speculation books on that. I think that's I agree with you. Everything Sony touches turns into Morbius, and it's unfortunate. But man, I always complain about their casting. Not this time. No complaints on this one.
Oh, nice.
Lance, what do you have for us today?
I decided to go with a book that I feel like goes along with this shift in nerd culture that's occurring right now. And there is this kind of new wave in popularity of Dungeons and Dragons. They're like, we just recently had the Legends of Vox Machina series on Amazon on Amazon Prime Video, and that's based off of the live action or the real-time play Critical Role show, which in order to have that show even made, it did a Kickstarter, and that raised $11.385 million alone.
Wow.
And that was because it was originally just supposed to be a 30-minute special. It broke the records, and so they did stretch goals, and it turned into them making an entire arc from their real-time live action, or not live action, but their real-time show. And then it made so much money that Amazon was like, hey, we're also going to take that. It's going to be on Amazon Prime now, and we're doubling the episodes that you had done stretch goals for.
Wow.
So we're getting a second season of The Legend of Vox Machina, and there are comics for that series. And one of the first issue that they ever made, and this isn't even my spec book, but just FYI, their first issue they ever made was an Emerald City Comic-Con exclusive, and I think they only made a few hundred of them.
Wow.
Yes. So if you can find that book for a few $100s on eBay, grab it immediately, because the last one I saw sold for like $800 or something like that. So D&D is kind of on this upward trajectory.
Yeah.
And we even have a live action Dungeons and Dragons movie that's announced to greenlit and is coming out fairly soon. So along those lines, my book is Die #1 from Image Comics. Now, Die is a story of a group of friends that play Dungeons and Dragons, or play a TTRPG, tabletop role-playing game, and then are sucked into the world that they're playing in. So it was hailed as like this goth Jumanji. That's what it was marketed as. and we've seen the Jumanji movies have done very well for themselves.
Yes.
But they are geared towards like family-friendly audiences. And we know very much that nerds in our culture like to gritty it up and have heart-pounding, soul-tormenting storylines. And that's really what the Die comic is about. It is a twisted story of friends being drawn into this world, going through severe trauma, escaping it, and then as later adults being sucked back in. And it is a brutal story, but so cool.
Worth reading?
100%. Absolutely. The storyline is phenomenal. It's written by Kieran Gillen, who is known for Wicked and Divine. He's also writing Once and Future, which are also incredible stories. And the artist for Die is Stephanie Hans, who you will, if you don't recognize her name, you will 100% know her for her variants especially for Marvel. She just came out with a Ghost Rider variant that cover is incredible.
Yeah, she did some Black Knight, Curse of the Ebony Blade variants that are connecting variants, and they're very dope, man. So yeah,
she has this very cool painted style, and so this is her doing sequential art. And the comic itself, it has done so many interesting things that I haven't seen in other comics, and bringing in like literature storylines into their story as well. It's so interesting and fun. And there's so many things I want to spoil, but I'm not going to, because if you're good, everyone should read it. It's such a great story. And it's 20 issues because it's like the 20 sides of a D20.
Yeah.
And you can actually pre-order the deluxe edition of the book right now, and it will have all 20 issues because the series is now over. Potentially they might do a follow-up series, but the initial 20 issues are collected together. But I would strongly suggest picking up Die issue 1. It is a really undervalued book right now. You can get a near mint copy between like $25 and $40. And you can actually even get a CGC graded 9.8 for less than $100 right now.
Damn.
Yeah. And I recently traded a Department of Truth #1 for a Die #1.
Nice.
So I have my copy CGC 9.8. I also have 2 raw copies of this book as well, but I didn't want to take the time to send them in. And my buddy had a graded copy. So I was like, hey, let's just trade because I'm not interested in keeping my Department of Truth #1. So, and I want Die. So we traded.
And
it's a good trade.
I'm seeing here that it's been a couple of years, but when this book was originally released, they had said that it was optioned for a television series.
Mm-hmm.
So now it seems like that's news from June 2019. So it's been cold for a little bit, but as most people know, developing a TV show takes a little while. And if this was optioned right when issue #1 came out and it was 20 issues, then maybe they were waiting till it was over. I'm not sure, but that is reason enough to speculate on a book, especially something that's, as you said, D&D is on the up and up. So I had not heard of the series. That's quite interesting and sounds like something I'd like to read. So Lance, once again, thank you.
If you enjoyed Barbaric, you will probably also enjoy this series.
Well, I'm going to hold you to it because if I don't enjoy it, then I'm going to let you know.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump into my speculation book. So I'm sticking in the MCU. I am going to talk about something. So everybody likes to, everybody lives in the moment, right? So Thor trailer, everybody's talking about Thor. Doctor Strange is coming up next week. Everybody's talking about that. Everybody wants to live in the moment now. And I'm sitting here saying, what is the thing that the MCU, we already know is happening, but nobody's talking about it. And so I wanted to talk about Armor Wars. Right. So this series was announced, 2 years ago? How long ago has it been? Because I think it got announced it was announced with WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and all the Loki and all the first batch of shows. And somehow it keeps getting bumped and bumped, it seems like. Or they're just, I don't know if they're bumping it. They're just not releasing it because I don't think they're done yet. So something that I would say, go and look for any of the spec books involved with that show because they're all cold as ice right now. You can find a lot of those books for very affordable prices. The one that I am going to bring up right now is Tales of Suspense 69. First appearance of Titanium Man, written by Stan Lee and Don Heck, art by Jack Kirby. Now, this is a 1965 book. This is why I brought it up. Silver Age. Now, Armor Wars, there is a ton of great spec books that are more modern books when it comes to Armor Wars. There are not, however, a ton of Silver Age books when it comes to Armor Wars speculation. And me personally, one, I think there is a lot more value to be had in the older books. I like chasing the Silver Age books. This book, so they're talking potentially this is a villain for the show, Titanium Man. It would, to me, make some sense in bringing back a villain like this, who has appeared multiple times throughout the last few decades. But Tales of Suspense 69, great book from 1965, classic artwork. You can get this book for like $60. This is, super cheap for a book from 1965, and you can get a high grade copy. I'm talking a really nice copy, nicer than Lance's copy of X-Men 12, which was gorgeous, by the way. You can get a nicer copy for like $60 on eBay. I'm sure this might be in, your not back bins, but if you've got an LCS with a decent backlog of comic books, this is not one of those books that everybody was clamoring over or has been clamoring over. And the thing is, it might be best buy for your buck, because if you spend $50 on a book, even get a mid-grade, right? $50. And this character does hit, you are quadrupling your money instantly, because it is going to become a $200 book, a $250, $500 book, because we look at what happened to Kang, right? Kang, similar year. I believe that was a 1964, maybe 65, first Kang for, what is that, Avengers 8? And everybody went nuts when Kang showed up in Loki. Just exploded. Now, this character, probably not the same level as a Kang, the Conqueror. I would say probably Abomination. Abomination is comparable. I wouldn't disagree with that. So you are looking at a sizable percentage increase. So you could hit a home run on this book potentially for not a lot of money. So I always, you know me, I always like those home runs. So that was why I picked this one. But I would say Armor Wars as a whole, go look at the books that are being talked about for that. It is an ice cold series right now. Go look at the specs books, because you're going to get them cheap now, not later. It's a great book, man. Yeah, it's a great pick.
I'm a sucker for Silver Age.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
But you're right, man. Those Armor Wars are cold right now, man. I'm still holding on to my Iron Man 282 first War Machine, and that one's gone down tremendously. So that's a good book to pick up too. But a lot of books in Armor Wars, man. Go check it out. Great picks, Jake.
Well, thank you very much. All right. Well, I think everybody did really well today. I don't want to declare a winner. And it's kind of rude to declare myself the winner every week. So I'll just avoid picking a winner this week. But if I did, it might
next week you'll pick yourself again.
Yeah.
I got you.
Lance, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, this was a blast. It's always fun to talk about comics, but it's especially fun to talk about comics with you, Jake, and very nice to talk about comics for the first time with you, Jesus. Super fun.
For sure, Lance. Yep, a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking with you, Lance, as well. Thank you for joining us. I had a blast, man. This was a lot of fun.
Sweet.
We should do this again sometime, you know?
Agreed.
Lance, in the future?
What's that?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of floppies maybe in the future? I don't know.
Oh, I think there's room for that. Lance, why don't we tell the people where they can find you out on the internets?
Yeah, that's a good idea. You can find Comic Book Keepers on every major streaming, podcast streaming platform. On social media, we're at CBKcast. And I am very active on Twitter. If you reach out to me on Twitter, I will respond. But yeah, that's basically straightforward. Comic Book Keepers, you can find us wherever. And then you can also find one of our pages is actually on thegeeklygrind.com. That is the site that my friend runs, and that he created it. That is the reason why I'm able to get into cons, because I contribute to that website. But we're also on there as well. So thegeeklygrind.com.
Very nice. And if you want to reach out to us at SpecTales, you can find us on Twitter at SpecTalesPod or on Instagram, Spec_Tales_podcast. That's it. Thanks, everybody. And we will catch you all next week when we play another round of What's That Squishy Feeling in My Shoe?
The game that everyone loses.
Except me.
Have a good week.